I will back. First of all, thank you very much for invitation. I am really glad to have this opportunity to make you familiar with our library. And I'm especially glad about international contacts, which might develop lately. And if you will be curious, I'm glad to answer your questions, of course. So it's the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia, and I will try to share with you information about our services and collections and any services which might be very useful for foreigners, especially. So the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia was founded in 1846 by the Society of Dissemination Literacy among Georgians. And its first building was in the National Museum, because the museum was Caucasian Museum, in which was joined all information about Caucasian art, culture, and everything. So lately the collection was expanded because it grew and new buildings were needed for it. At the moment, the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia is the main scientific library of Georgia, and all printed editions published in Georgia and all important materials are stored at our libraries. So by law, we are obliged to save our cultural heritage for our next generation. So it is under the supervision of Parliament of Georgia because it's exceptional national significance and also for material properties and for a budget, of course. So you see here the web page of National Library of Georgia, which you might open lately. And now about our work, our buildings, and what we do. So first, I have to share with you that the National Library of Georgia is member of the IFLA, International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions. And since 2021, I am elected member of the European Division of the library. Therefore, we are working to renew our data at the International Federation and use, I would like to overview general library life and library work in Georgia. So you see here the library map of the world, and you can also see other countries' data lately, but these data are put by me here. And you see that how many libraries we have in Georgia generally, and what's the situation here. Also, public libraries, community libraries, we don't have community libraries. Also, libraries funded by the communities are still needed in Georgia, of course. And we have school libraries, about 2,000 school libraries. We have public libraries in different regions, about 800 libraries. We have academic, so university libraries too. So every university has its own libraries, and therefore they are about 1,000 here and more. And national libraries, we have two. We have these, our national parliamentary libraries, and national scientific libraries. These are two national libraries. I have to share with you that National Parliamentary Library is the main library of the country, and it gives the trend, it shares the trends to other libraries in Georgia, what is going in the library world, what is happening in other countries, what are new regulations, what are new innovations, and so on. So let me share this to you now. First, buildings, because I deeply hope that you will visit Georgia once and you will need to know where to go. So it is, sorry for the street noise. When it happens, I think I am in New York, what is happening? Okay, sorry. So it is third library, this picture. It is the administrative building, and you see here says they are sitting cells of the library, and also different foreign sections are working there. Although our very famous exhibition hall and very useful conference hall. So it is the second building with newly opened book museum, which is actually touristic sightseeing in Georgia now, and it is brand new book museum. And I will share you the content of this museum later. It is our first building. There are stored many interesting materials. It's our depository. So here in this building are stored all our books, which goes after upon the request to our readers. And it is our newly acquired museum. And what is interesting, it is former illegal stamp of Stalin. So it is stamp of revolutionaries, which is now, which belongs now to the National Library. And there will be organized a very beautiful museum. So let me now, it's also West Georgia. In West Georgia, we have a new library building, and there will be hostel room for foreign and Georgia writers too. And with the support of the government, we are building the biggest depository here, also in West Georgia, new book depository. So now let me share with you what we are doing in Wall, Georgia. You see the map of the National Library Movement Equilibrium, which exists since 2012. And we are working very hard to restore and develop regional libraries. And on the map, you see more than 100 libraries in regions, which we restored, equipped, and also we helped them to develop new collections to modernize them. And it is really huge work, and it is really very popular in regional libraries. We still receive many, many letters from librarians who want to renew their libraries in region. It might be school libraries, it might be regional libraries, it might be village libraries, and so on. And we are very happy to do it. So, about cultural events, you know that today's libraries are not only book depositories, they're also quite cultural, very active places. And especially last year, for example, last year, because it was after pandemic, last year, we have more than 1,000 visitor group excursion, also children, foreigners, touristic groups, and so on, go and sightsee our libraries. And why? Because it's very, very famous building. It is among rarest buildings in Art Nouveau style in Georgia. And you know that Art Nouveau style, this art style is very rare in the whole world because it was developed between two wars, First World War and Second World War. And therefore these buildings are very rare. So we are lucky to work in these beautiful buildings, and it's one of them. And also materials and exhibitions. So about 800 presentations, lectures, concerts, conferences are held yearly. And I can remember a day when we have about 13 events a day. And you see these thematic exhibitions, so they are very popular. And all our services are free of charge, completely free of charge. And we are proud of that. On the one side, of course, it would be add to us more material gain, of course, if it would be paid. But on other side, you know, the libraries are the most democratic organizations in every country, open to any social segment, and we are happy to serve any social segment so they feel equal to each other. And we like this democratic process at our library very much. So now about our reading halls. You see our reading halls. The first reading hall is being renovated now, and it is huge, beautiful hall in which I also, during my student times, wrote my diploma work. And it is very famous reading hall and very beautiful. So you see the cardiology reading hall. It's very interesting, especially for foreign readers, because they share all materials about Georgia in different languages. So when some students or researchers from the USA or from other countries come to us, I send them always to this reading hall because they have really good collection, and this reading hall is very famous. So there is also a reading hall for Society of Dissemination Literacy among Georgians, and they have archival materials. When you need some archival materials, you go to this section. Civil education hall, which is now general hall because the first huge hall is renovated, and our digital hall. We have also other many halls. I will share this more information about their work, their pictures too. So, and you see the list here, and if you will be interested, of course, I will share this presentation and you can go to the links and see their work. Who can be a reader of the National Library? I wanted to share this information because any of you can be a reader of the National Library. Every citizen of Georgia or other country, age 14 and over, who produce an ID card. And it is also completely free of charge. Our membership is also free of charge. And in 10 minutes, you will have this reading card to use our collections. And you go to the register, and mostly every year, over 10,000 new users apply for access to the National Library. During the pandemic, it was about 3,000, not very much, but we can understand the situation. Now the life is back in Georgia after pandemic, and we hope the number will rise. So the National Library's collections. So we are not as big as, for example, Congress Library or Harvard Library, in spite of the fact that we have some collaborations with them, but we are the biggest library in the country, and therefore we have 3,087,000 books, so dissertations, abstracts. And then it might be very interesting. Now will be created the big database of dissertations. We have it at the library, but in all countries there will be the special database for all dissertations, and you can get them and see what subjects are interested for Georgian researchers. So annual set of newspapers, you see 62. Sheet music, and music is very popular field in Georgia. Cartographic editions, loose leaf gramophone records, optical discs, video, audio, and electronic documents. I have to tell you that, of course, we would be happy to have more digitized materials already, but we have digitized more than 1 million materials already, and we are very proud of it because it happens it happened since 2012. And in 10 years, we have digitized more than 1 million, I think 1.5 million. So, and related sources are the Museum of Book Collection and Digital Library Collections. I will tell you later how we digitize them. So the library system. So what was our weakness was our interface and software. You know that library software is not cheap. it is quite expensive thing for libraries, and that's a big problem in Georgia because we waited for a long time when we would be given funding to acquire new innovative software. So now we have the innovative interfaces software, Sierra, and we are working very hard to renew all materials in these new databases. And this library system was nominated for the Big Business Prize in Georgia in 2016. So now about divisions, what are doing our divisions? There are many divisions, and if you want to know exactly how many divisions we have and how the structure is built, I will show later the file, but I would like to introduce first what we are doing in general. So we are working very close with the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia. And for example, parliamentarians are calling us and sending emails to help them to find some books or for some research materials or some databases. I have worked also for it, but we have special division of scientific and information services for the parliament, who is working on the parliamentary materials. And it's really, really interesting that they published already recordings of former Georgian parliaments. So we have books published, we have 7 volumes, no, not 7 volumes, I think about 6 volumes of the recording of the parliament of the first Democratic Republic of Georgia. And it is really interesting why I want to underline it, because when you see the recordings and when you see what they were talking about, you see that before occupation, we really were a democratic country. So these recordings shows that human rights, rights of workers, rights of women, rights of children, we are foreseen in this during these meetings. And it gives you a really interesting glimpse how democratic Georgia was. And it was really, we are very proud of it. It was one of the forwarding constitution in the world during the beginning of the 20th century. So now digital collections of the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia, which I mentioned that was created since 2012. We have, you see here, different collections. Where is my mouse? Yeah. It's our exhibition hall, which we love very much. So you see digital library, you see dictionaries, and actually these dictionaries are very helpful for researchers and also for translators who translate Georgian literature from Georgia to European languages or to other languages. And it is very useful. So I shared it to some translations, some translators, because they were looking for dialectic words, also for some Georgian words from regions. And I was very lucky to have found this word in these dictionaries. So we have many dialects, in spite of the fact that we are a very small nation, very, very small. We have different regions who have also different dialects. And therefore, you have sometimes to look up in the dictionary to find what the word means. So we are building our Wiki dictionary. We respect Wikipedia very much, and we have some connections to our Georgian Wikipedia team. We have a collaboration with them, and there was some training for readers to crowdsource to Wikipedia at the National Library. But because libraries have to share really exact materials, and they are responsible for copyright, and they are responsible for the right information, so we are building our wikis here. And all materials published here are proved in encyclopedias or different research materials. So we have also school digital library for our students who are studying in schools. And why? Because some of them, of course, don't have money to buy manuals sometimes. And therefore, we share these manuals for free to them, to have access to them, or some texts and so on, classical texts, especially Georgian classics. We have here Civil Education Digital Library. It is named after the Georgian philosopher Mamardashvili, who was very famous for his for his philosophical thinking and a very critical attitude to Soviet regime, and therefore we named this library after him. And it says all materials for civil education. Actually, I put links here. If you will need, you can or I can show you the link. First I go, what was, sorry. It is a library for civic education. And why we need it? You know that we need some more knowledge about civic rights, about human rights, about different NGOs, what is now very hot topic in Georgia, about international organizations. And all this information and all these publications in Georgian is stored here. So we are very good collaborating with researchers to share with us these materials about civic knowledge and civil rights. Here's a Georgian biographical dictionary where you can go and see the names of Georgian immigrants. And not only immigrants, of course, there are different segments. So engineers, everybody who have done interesting work or who were famous for their work and for their how can I say, historical meaning are in this dictionary, and you can see what they did and how they worked for Georgia. And here is also members for Society for Dissemination Literacy among Georgians. And I will lately tell much more about them because it's very, very hot, no, not hot, it's still a very actual topic, because, and I tell you lately why. And school literature. So, as a Society for Spreading of Literacy, for Dissemination Literacy among Georgians, it was very, very important because it was the first NGO in Georgia. And when some forces tell that there is not needed NGOs in Georgia, it was a main NGO in Georgia who spread literacy, writing, and reading knowledge among Georgians. You know that actually it is not only Georgian, of course. I know that, for example, Carnegie, who founded libraries in the USA, was also helping to spread literacy among Americans. And it was general trend in the whole world, I know. And so Georgians saw this trend. And you know that there was beginning of the industrialization, and the former feudals who we are transitioning to the industrial time needed working force who were educated already. And therefore, they also by themselves needed educated people in their country. And they needed people who could understand what they were doing, and how to build factories, or how to build their organizations, and how to create product and so on. Therefore, this society and it had also some political meanings, of course, because very few Georgians were able to read and write in Georgian, and we needed much more people. So we need all Georgia to know their native language. That was all. Therefore, this society was founded, and this was the first society where women were very active, actually. You know that NGOs, and our president of the country, president of Georgia, said in her speech that most NGOs are founded by the women. And it is also a very interesting topic to think about women's rights, not only in Georgia, but in the other countries. So, and I put this very beautiful picture of our historical door, which was restored now, and it is from the same time when this society was founded. It's very beautiful door, and we love very much it. So now let me talk about important thing which might be useful to you in your countries, from your countries. It is our first digital library. And this digital library also contains electronic versions of books, magazines, newspapers, photos, and other rare editions preserved in the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia, and electronic copies of some documents. And I am also very proud that you see here my project. It is Front Letters, project Front Letters, and it was crowdsourcing project, and people from their families brought letters from front written by their fathers, grandfathers, and so on. What is interesting, till this time they were afraid to share these front letters to the public, and they were afraid to share their front letters because of former Soviet regime. And why? In these letters, you see very different society. It is not only Soviet society. People, maybe because they were in war, and they didn't know if they would return home, they were very openly describe their feelings and what they thought, and why they don't wanted war, and so on. And it's really interesting materials. We are going to have research lately about them. We have many collections here, of course, and let me open this link because where it is opened now. How I can, so now it's open. So yeah, I have to show you, sorry, I will close all my, because I am, yeah. So let me introduce our digital library. You can use many materials from your home, but some of them are available and accessible only in the library buildings. Anyway, you can subscribe to them, and lately send their emails to their office so they can send these materials to you. So it's very useful. And you see here archives, audio materials, materials from Abkhazian Republic. And you know the story of Abkhazia after the war, newspapers, ecological library. So ecology is very new field in Georgia and very important field. Dissertations, stamps and labels, materials of also Patriarch Academy, also someone who wants to study something about our Christian education can go there. So materials shared by the Theater and Film State University. So it is materials about noble families from the past and their archives, literary museum publications, notes, stamps. There are some Georgians who were sent to Turkey during our wars, during centuries. And some of them still live in Georgia, and some of them still want to study Georgian. And they have created their very different minority. So Georgian minorities in Turkey. And they send to us these materials, or we bring them from there, and they are also in this collection. It is crowdsourcing collection. Our staff went to Georgian families and digitized all art materials. Although they went to families and photographed pictures, artworks, artifacts, and you see them there. And it's a very rich digital library for people who like art. I love art, therefore I love it very much. Our photo collection, and it's books and manuscripts. So that is our digital library. Interlibrary Loan and Reference Services of the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia. So we have here reference services reading call, and you can you can use the materials, I mean, lexic dictionaries and other materials, newspapers, not newspapers, magazines are mostly stored here, journals, American journals too, and so on. And interlibrary loan. Interlibrary loan is very important for your libraries because you can offer to your readers, you can offer to readers in your library to have some contacts with our Georgian library, and if they are interested in Georgian materials, we have special division for it, which scans and sends needed materials or requested books, requested articles, requested newspapers to our readers. So you see here the list who can use these services. They are central libraries of cities and regions, scientific, technical, scientific, medical, and other libraries. So Academy of Sciences institutions, Parliament of Georgia, and libraries of state organizations can share their materials with this service, and it is free of charge. What is really good, it is also free of charge. And I put especially this email here and contact requisites, because you can anytime address them and ask if they can send you scanned pages of needed books. So now about publications by the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia and library science publications. So last year was published, it is in Georgia, but anyway, it might be very useful because in internet, you can translate some materials for the beginning to know if you need it. It is a book about Georgian bibliography. We created it, and you can see all books published by the National Library of Georgia from 19th century till today, till 2011. And it is a gift, actually. I will share it with you. It is a digital version of our new album about the history of the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia. And it has very interesting history. Therefore, I put this link here to share as gift with you. So you will have the possibility to enjoy it and to know more. It is written in both languages, in Georgian language and in in English language. So therefore, you can compare these languages to each other and also study something if you are interested in. Publication of the National Parliamentary Library of Georgia in numbers. It is from 2021, and why? We will soon have all this information about 2022, and I can share them lately. But you see the statistics, how many materials we digitized, how many new book publications we published, and what was restored, and how many new readers we had. And what is really important, because we didn't have a possibility to lend home our books, because we are a national library, we did not have this software till yet, and we did not have this barcodization on books. Now we began this barcodization upon we bought this new interface, and soon we will be able to lend books at home for our readers. So it is not our strongest point, but we are happy still to work on this. Now I have to introduce our restoration division. And why? Because our restoration division is one of the strongest in the region. Actually, it is the strongest restoration division in the country, in Georgia. And why? Because all librarians from regions, from different libraries, from different institutions are sent to this division to study the contemporary methods of restoration. And they are very strong, very well equipped, and really good educated in this field. And we are very proud of them. Therefore, I had to introduce them to you. If you will need to know some more information about them, please send anytime, send question anytime. I'm really glad that our general director, Mr. Georgi Kekelidze, is working very hard to acquire some fundings to renovate our different halls. The problem is that we are still waiting for the whole budget from our government to renovate all buildings. And because we had to wait for some time, he decided to begin this work and to attract some business sources to renovate different halls. I call it personally patchwork work, actually, because we renovate different reading halls in different years. But it is now a newly founded Museum of Georgian Press, and you see all historical newspapers are restored and available in this room. And also, it is very important date in 1877, the Georgian newspaper Iberia was founded by Ilya Chachadze. Who was Ilya Chachadze? Ilya Chachadze was our main hero, who founded the first bank in Georgia. Actually, it's very interesting that our public library is working now in the buildings of the former first bank in Caucasus, and it was the first step to for the modernization of Georgia. And actually, he was our founding father. I mean, he was father of modernization of Georgia. That is why we named the National Parliamentary Library upon him. Also, it is Ilya Chachadze National Library. I try to share with you these little glimpses of Georgian history, and if I will help to open some curiosity, to evoke some curiosity about our history, I will be very happy about it, of course. Therefore, I tell some stories from the history. So in 2017, we also opened Museum of Reprinted Books, and it is one of sighting in Georgia. It's on the map of sighting in Georgia. It's quite long. It contains 10,000 books from the library's archive of lyrical books, which were stored only in one very, very little room during the Soviet time. And it was stored very chaotic. There was no condition, no climate control, no temperature, nothing at all. It was just kept and stored there. And it was very dangerous for them. And it explained actually Soviet time very well. So now with a private foundation, we were able to build this new book museum. And Olga, I don't know if you have seen this museum, but next time I will share with you what we have there, and anybody, of course. Now you see the first exhibition, and it's renovated, equipped, stored, and now we are very proud of it. It is our gift to Georgia. The earliest book printed by a Georgian printing house was the 1709 edition of the Book of Psalms. The book is known in Georgian as Davidni, after the 10th century BC, King David of the United Kingdom of Israel, you know. Therefore, it is one of our oldest book here in this library. And the Book of Psalms was printed at the first printing house established in Tbilisi by Georgian King Vakhtang VI, not six, I'm sorry. And so many people we know that don't know that we still had a printing house in Georgia during this time. So now about our international relations, you see here Anglo-American Reading Hall, actually, and I'm curator of this hall, and we began very strong collaboration with the USA libraries in 28. We have very strong collaboration with Smithsonian libraries, who sent us many books to share it with other libraries too. And you see here the support of the Embassy of the United Nations, and it was two gifts. Mr. Richard Norland gifted us with collection of Pulitzer Prize books, and we are among the rarest libraries who has this whole collection of Pulitzer Prize authors. And Mr. Ian Kelly, who gifted us about 400 very new American manuals and books about different subjects. And why? When I was appointed as a curator of the Anglo-American Reading Hall, I saw that we had many classics, but we did not have any books with knowledge how Western products, how Western world was created. And why? Because it was forbidden during the Soviet time. And my main goal was to fill this niche so that our readers would be able to understand how this developed world was created, what was that knowledge, what was their books, what was their development in books. Although it is not only classics and novels, we needed much more knowledge about it. So my goal was it, and I am very glad that the United Embassy helped us really much, and we are still in a very close contact to do at least one project every year. And I tell you another project with the American libraries lately and with the USA at all. So we have also collaboration with British Embassy, And you see that Mr. Jensen, who was the time head of collections and curations at the British Library, also visited us, and we are preparing some memorandum with Illinois Library, with Olga, because we need some contemporary knowledge about a library field to share it with our Georgian librarians. And we are working on this memorandum now. So we have different memorandums with different libraries to share our knowledge, what we are good at, to share our digital sources, and also to understand what they are working about and what they can share with us. So if you have any ideas to share with us about our future collaborations, we will be very happy about it, of course. So, and you see also British libraries support for school libraries in West Georgia, and we brought some new books to West Georgian school library, and the children were very happy about it. So in 2015, we opened Italian library because Italian Cultural Center in Belgium offered us to share their big collection because they were temporarily closing, and they had a really very precious book about Italian art and so on. And with the support of Italian embassy, we were happy to receive this really big gift. And any person who wants to study Italian can get this material and study this language in this really cool, they're really precious book, especially about art, about Italian Renaissance, about classic and so on. And we organized it in this reading hall, which looks also very antique, and we think it is very tasteful there. So we have also Polish collection and art library. And why? It has a really interesting history. Because our building is very rare, and among the sighting of the city, one of the painter of our library was Mr. Henryk Hlinevsky, who was repressed lately by Stalin, actually. And it has really interesting history about art. He won the prize to decorate our library hall at the beginning of libraries of the history, when it was punk, yes. And during the Soviet time, all these beautiful paintings, what you see on the walls, and also this beautiful sailing, it is very beautiful. And these old decorations, they are covered by white paint by Soviets as something very decadent and something very amoral and something very, so how can I say, it was forbidden actually. And when we are renovating these library buildings every year, when restaurators began to find the liars, they don't know very often what will discover them. And it was very surprising that they discovered these beautiful decorations after they removed these Soviet coverings there on the walls. And you see many buildings in Georgia, really many buildings in Georgia, historical buildings especially, which decorations were covered by white plain paints, so that people were not able to see these beautiful decorations. And Polish embassy, when they discovered that it was decorated by the Polish artist, established this Polish reading hall and funded the restoration of this reading hall, and also sailing in front of this hall by million euro. And it is one example of good collaboration to restore the art of the Georgian art of the Georgian history before the Soviet time. So I have a little revolutionary speech here, but it is true that Soviet regime wanted to delete all these remnants, all these beautiful remnants, and you see now that we have also Oriental reading room here, collaboration with Turkish, Japanese, Chinese societies and embassies, and they bring very interesting collections. For example, Japanese embassy brought to us 100 books in English about Japan history, and people who want to study something about Japan, when they read all these 100 books, they have really good understanding of Japanese culture. So are doing Chinese, Turkish embassies when they gift us with some collections about their history and culture and countries and so on. So because we are on the border between East and West, we are also very glad when we expand our Eastern Oriental collections, of course, in spite of the fact that politically we are Europeans. We are now battling, as you know, from the news, to have our places in the European culture. And it is not just idea, because we have had European connections since 3rd century before Christus. So therefore, we are very organic when we talk about this. Now about our European collection, we have good collaboration with French and German embassies too. And you see the first reading hall, so before even I have worked for the library, you see the first reading halls for French language readers and German reading hall. The German reading hall was the first foreign reading hall funded by the Curator Institute in Georgia in 22. And what's the difference? They are funded by their government, and therefore their collections, their equipment and everything is renewed almost any year. And we wanted very much to create something by our strengths, and that is why I created later these other reading halls. So now our international collection, and I am working on this topic too, and I am really glad to share with you this experience. You know, we are renewing regional libraries, but the same movement is working to create Georgian book corners and Georgian libraries in the world. It is for immigrants, it's our gift for Georgian immigrants, or if not for immigrants, for the people who want to study Georgian language and so on. So language is one of our main identity as Georgians, and we are very small and we have many immigrants in foreign countries, and we want them to keep reading and speaking into Georgian language. So therefore, I'm very proud that I was one who organized this, and I organized this actually from Georgia. I was sitting at my library alone, and I was working with the Queen's Library to open their Georgian book corner. And it was really good. This first my distance working experience, and the results was it. So with Georgian lecture, with the lecture about Georgian culture, with Georgian dance, music, food, but we have really good food. in Georgia. And I will be really glad if you will have the possibility to taste Georgian food in Georgia or in your country lately, because it's also very healthy and organic, and we are very proud of it. So soon our Georgian book corners will be open in Dublin, Romania, Italy, and our general director returned from Italy 1 week ago, where we opened in Milan, in Neapol, and also in Rome. We opened Georgian book corners for Georgian speaking people, and we were very proud that we have also one football player there, Mr. Kvaratskhelia, who also invited them on the meeting, and all we are very proud about it. Now about collection development of the archival materials. We are very, very fiercely working to acquire, to see, to digitize the archival materials of Georgians who left Georgia for other countries after the occupation. And you see here our work. We have been in the USA before pandemic, and we were happy to receive these gifts from the first wave of Georgian immigration and the second wave of Georgian immigration. And both of them were very important persons, also persons who created these archives. One was the leader of the group of the Democratic Republic in immigration, who were forced to leave Georgia after the occupation, and Simonishvili was his name, and who created a group of Georgians working on the subjects of Georgian development. Also, they were writing articles, issuing newspaper, working with minorities on the topics how the independent Georgia might be look, how they would work, and so on. It was a really dramatic story, and he wanted to visit Georgia, but he was ill, and therefore wasn't possible to return and to see his country lately. And the second here, you see the lecture of the 5 of the former Soviet descent, Valery Chalitze. Mr. Chalitze was the first founder of the human rights in Georgia. He was physician, very famous physician, actually very famous person without it. And he was the first who began to talk about human rights in Georgia, and who began collect all cases of human rights problems in the Soviet Union. And he was samizdat, if you know what was samizdat. Samizdat was a publication of dissidents during Soviet Union, who issued a monthly newspaper and monthly magazine about human rights violation in Georgia, and about forbidden topics. So, and he was invited to the United Nations in New York to have the public lecture during the Soviet time. And it was such a moving story. He was forbidden to return to the Soviet Union after lecture. And if you Google his name, you see mostly his picture exactly at the moment when he was told not to return to the Soviet Union. He was not going to escape from the Soviet Union. He believed that he would modernize something and improve the conditions. But it was so, you know the story, and he was forced to stay there and to marry American Lisa, and to work on this topic later in the United Nations. And he was translating into Russian also letters of federalists, and all this knowledge which would be very important to have the democratic country, and people were sending them to the Soviet Union, and it has really interesting story. So he wrote also many books about human rights in Georgia, in Russia, in Soviet countries, and it is quite an interesting collection. About Stalin, he has really good introspection about Stalin's personality, what created him, and so on. So if you are interested in human rights, or teaching human rights at your library, or creating digital collections about human rights in your at your library, you can see these materials and have a glimpse. It is now digitized. It's very newly acquired materials, and it will be digitized. On the right side, you see our general director and head of the library resources, Levan Taktakishvili, working in France with French researcher working on French Georgian collections, and they are working to digitize these French collections about Georgian culture soon. And it is a reading, it's a hall where all these immigrant materials are stored, and they will be exhibited in our newly found immigration museum soon. So next to this room is a migration museum, and we are very happy to introduce to the wide public all these collections from time to time to understand our life during the period. So, and you know that SDG, also Sustainable Development Library, is very sustainable development, actually. Also, is SDG, we call it SDG. It's a new field, and especially new field in Georgia. And when we thought about it, it has many good topics for libraries to develop any goal of it. And you know, SDG has 17 goals, and these 17 goals also contain many subjects from different fields. It might be education, it might be human rights, it might be nature, it might be working rights or working innovations, anything, 17 goals. And we decided to open this reading hall with the support of United Nations, just to give a glimpse and to our readers what they can do in this direction. And what is good, we are planning, especially I'm planning now some public lectures, some services for our readers for free, so they will be able, especially underprivileged minorities, will be able to study something about digital professions, about project writings, about women's rights, about health topics, and different public lectures will be held under this logo, also SDG. And now the National Library of Georgia works to open little library corners in parks. So it is also connected with SDG, of course, but we began it before it. So you can see little library corners. It is created by little library nests. They are created by our staff, by hand, and we bring it to different parks in different regions. So these regions and public readers sitting in park and enjoy scenery will be able to read something if they are bored and so. And this is in our yard at the National Library. So you see this, they all have different design foreseeing the character of these regions or character of these parks or character of their profiles or their field of work. So you see them. And they are very different. All of them are very different. And now our digital collection development, so we are working, so some readers and some immigrants still send to us their collections. So you see here Norwegian book collection, which is also stored in my reading hall, Anglo-American reading hall. And you see some gifts from Canada. And here we will have here the shelves for Canadian literature very soon. And we receive different gifts from different readers. For example, we have one German reader, Mr. Matthias Unger, who sends us from Berlin to Georgia some German books to renew our collection. And also Smithsonian representative, Mr. Taylor, Paul Michael Taylor, who works very hard to renew our collection with not only our collection, also collection of Georgian libraries with American books. So you see also digital, I'm really glad that we have not much funding to open all these digital, international digital collections to our readers. But what I have done, I opened already about 400 digital libraries for a month to our readers to know how contemporary digital libraries look like. Also their video collections, their subject collections and everything, and to share this contemporary librarianship with them in this way. So therefore I put some of them here, and we still have access to EBSCO digital collection available for our readers. And it helped very much during the pandemic, because we give them home access. So all these people who were closed in their home, we are able to study and teach something from home. So it is, also Tbilisi World Book Capital, yes. So we are very happy that United Nations named us Tbilisi World Book Capital in 2021. And it was some interesting events, and we are participant of it, of course. And I have to tell you that Georgia has about 90 publishing houses. So we have about 90 publishing houses in Georgia, in Georgian language, because it's very, how can I say, not only fashionable, people are very proud, say, when they are called literate. And they are very proud when they can tell that they are writers or publishers. I am really lucky that my grandfather, before Sovietization, also had one publishing and a bookshop. So therefore, it is very popular business in Georgia. But what we need help in is to translate all these Georgian writers, especially the most prominent or popular or interesting writers, into different languages to share our knowledge with the world. Therefore, we are very good cooperating with the book house, who has the program Georgian literature in foreign countries, and they are funding twice a year translation of and publication of Georgian literature. But we work also vice versa. We work to translate foreign literature translated into Georgia and publish it for Georgian readers. So if you are interested in your work, or if you are able to share this knowledge with your readers, please, we will be very happy, because we still need to make popular our language in different countries. And your language in our countries, and your literature in our countries, of course. So it is what I had. Yes. And the national, because I have a little conversation with copyright organizations who are working for the International Federation. And we are the only organization who gives ICBN number to books published in Georgia. So we give these numbers and codes to all books and all materials published in Georgia. And we are collaborating with copyright institution, with our copyright organization, very close. And all, I suppose that there might be a question about copyright, therefore I tell you that all organizations in Georgia are working with the help of the law about copyright in Georgia. It is the only law which organizes or copyright work in Georgia. So I suppose I shared with you all general knowledge, what might be interesting for you. If I need something to tell you, or you have any questions, I will be glad to answer your questions, of course. Now I will read comments now. So I was talking so long that now I have to read comments and wait for your questions, or for your comments, or for your remarks. You can share very free what you like, what you missed, and so on. Thank you very much. And so, of course, my email and all requisites are here. And actually, I will share this presentation with you, of course, in chat. And you can send any questions about collaboration, about sharing materials, about foreigners who visit our country and who will need help. Researchers, for example, if you know that some of your researchers are going to Georgia and they need some help with research materials or something, you can address me anytime with any questions. And I am proud that we have really fast feedback, and we will answer you as good as possible, as good as we can. So thank you very much. And now I am ready for your questions. So
thank you very much, Maia. Yeah, so you can either type it in chat or raise your hand and ask any questions you might have.
I hope Helfik was in the good sense, because I was really terrified before the presentation how it would go.
No, perfectly. Okay, Maia.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation. I was just curious about sort of maybe upcoming projects or ways that you guys want to expand other than what you've touched on in the presentation, if there's anything else in terms of projects that are upcoming.
Which projects are coming? Yeah, about...
Yeah, like if you guys have any sort of, because I know you mentioned that you're going to have the Canada book corner coming soon, if there's any other sort of upcoming projects or anything like that.
Yes,
that
of course,
didn't have time to.
Oh, sorry, because I was mobilized to have the presentation. I will answer now. It's also interesting that I am working as a literary agent. Therefore, at the moment, I am literary agent of 2 writers, and one of them is Mr. Kekelidze, and because his books are really popular in Georgia, and we have, of course, classic writers, but literary agency needs really big stamina. Because I'm stubborn, sorry, I am talking about me, but it needs some stubbornness and really big stamina to wait for months or for some period till the book is read by foreign publishers, till you have the funding there and everything. And therefore, I am really happy that Bookland Press, working in Canada and working under the publisher Mr. Robert Morgan, published our translation of the fairy tale, and it was published in November in Georgia, in Canada, and now is sold in the USA too. And now we are working to publish second and third book. And we are waiting for the answer and for the funding and so on. It is really hard work. It is really hard work because it needs all time to look for publishers and to make Georgian literature interesting for them. But it worked somehow, and we are very glad about it. And we are very thankful to Book House that it helps. Now about our future projects. We are going to have signed a memorandum with the Illinois Library, thanks to Olga. And I just sent this memorandum text translated to our law division because of what we really need. We really need knowledge of contemporary librarianship. And why? You know that during the Soviet time, the libraries were very conservative, and it was the only place where books were stored and read. Today, then was the collapse of Soviet Union, and then was the internet age. Then began the internet age. And if you were interested, you definitely know that there were talks that there won't be library needed anymore, and that all books will be in Google and in internet, and what libraries will do and so on. And it was a period when libraries were closed in regions. That is why we are renewing them. And then Faculty of Librarianship was closed. And I have to tell you that older generation of librarians are mostly the main generation of librarians who knew this field. After 2000, the Faculty of Library Studies were opened at the Ilia State University, and 2 years ago, the Library Studies were opened at the Tbilisi State University. And there are also one professional faculty in Gori. So I think we have only 3 of them. And I never heard that we have PhD niveau in librarianship in Georgia yet. This is, of course, problem. And also the new contemporary knowledge, digital knowledge. For example, I am all time so fearful of I love innovations personally, but I'm good example in this. I am so fearful that I might not know the cutting edge, that I try all time to study something new. For example, I just studied the basics of programming, and I'm in this. And why? Because we all knew that, we all know that in the future, digital skills will be the main skills of librarianship, because we can create something by ourselves. And all this book will digitized, also stored as very interesting materials and very precious materials, but knowledge might be more accessible to everyone. and how to share this knowledge, how to make this contemporary librarianship. We really have a lack of this in this field. And we will be very happy if we will have some connections to exchange our knowledge. For example, we are really good at restoration. We are really good at crowdsourcing. We are really good at some subjects. We can share our knowledge or our materials. And if you have any interesting materials to share with us and any knowledge, you can do it very happily. So that is what I can tell you. But do you publish bibliographical materials? Yes, we have the list of our bibliographical materials, and you can address me and I will share the link, and we can make contacts with our bibliographical division. We have one big bibliographical division which works on Georgian bibliography and also bibliography which what books we have in the country and what materials we have in the country. So I will be happy to share it with you. And what collections it has, and is it popular among and visitors of the library? Wine reading room. Wine reading room. It's also very new. And we are very ashamed that as the cradle of wine in the world, we did not have a wine library yet. Therefore, we opened this beautiful section, and you see their materials, just type wine libraries, and it shows you the collection. We are collecting materials about Georgian wines, how to winemaking, about different species of wine, how they are made, how they were made, and how wine is made in the world. And we will share all this material with our readers, because winemaking is one of the oldest professions in Georgia, and we will be glad to share this knowledge with you, and also to share Georgian wine by itself with you. So therefore we created it. Thank you very much for leaving now. So do we have any other questions?
I think there was one in chat before that about a data set to help researchers search in Georgian academic and literary periodicals. So a question about...
Finish your question.
How can one find articles published in journals? Do you have a data set to help researchers search in Georgian academic and literary periodicals?
They have to go to the our when you see our page. Let me open our page. Okay, you see the collection.
I guess you have to start sharing again, because we just see the slides.
Yes, you see my. I didn't show the web page because I wanted to share with you what we are doing. I open any page now. It was opened. Where it is? I know that I opened before when I was talking about. So when you open our collections, I might see here, it is digital collection. Now you see here, and you write here the subject here. Although, well, you write here the subject what you are looking for, or an author, or some words from the title, and then you click on search, and you see the list of materials library has. it is about digital library. Also the same when you open our web at the first glance, you see here look look on site or look by subject or look in collection. So you click somewhere there on the look in collection, and you will be able to see it in the list what we have. If you don't find an author, or if you don't find a material you need, but you definitely know we have these materials, you can send the request actually to me too, because I have sent some materials to our readers in foreign countries. Or it is Interlibrary Loan section, and you can send to this email that please, I am looking for this and this material. I will be happy if you will find in other libraries and send it to me. So we have Interlibrary Loan, what means that we can contact Georgian libraries and ask them if they have this material to send to you. If they have, they will scan it and send to us and we share it. Or if they don't have it, we will try to find the material in other libraries. So sometimes it happens that foreign libraries have some Georgian books and we don't have, or we have some foreign books and they don't have. It happens sometimes too, but it happens very rarely. So I hope I answered your question very well.
Here's one more question, and then I guess
yeah,
about Georgian book corners.
About Georgian book corners.
Mm-hmm. It's in the chat. I can read it, or want me to read it?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. So I'm also curious what is interesting for you. Who curates selection of the books? So I can share my experience with you. When we are working, for example, when we are working for the Georgian minority, which is opened not at the library, it might be opened in Georgian cultural centers and so on. Publishers, we are asking publishers to send to us books, and publishers send to us their new publications, their new books, or readers can share their books and collections they don't need anymore. I mean, some of them have really huge libraries, but they don't need so much book in their houses. Therefore, they bring it to us, and we are we are collecting all these books and looking at them to have balance, so that they have classics, contemporary, printed materials, and so on, and subject by subject, of course, and by authors, of course, and we collect them, we sort them, and share with different libraries. And with in different cultural centers. And with libraries, I can tell you a detailed story how it was done. So we contacted the Queen's Library in New York, and we are very happy about it. Mr. Fred Gittner helped us very much, and we are very thankful to him for his hospitality and for his interest in Georgian culture. And why we chose the Queen's Library? Because the Queen's region is a region which is the populations, they are very versatile, full of minorities. And therefore, they have these many sections in different languages for different populations. And they asked us to send them 100 books, at least 20 films, more than 100 books, about 20 films, some CD-ROMs with Georgian music, and the collection expanded later because when we were visiting USA in 2019, we brought new gifts there, and they have special numbers what they really have to receive. And then they opened this collection, this book corner. So any of them, Dublin, for example, Dublin embassy in Dublin asked us to send them about 200 books at the beginning and some studying materials for Georgian language, and they are opening this this year, I think in spring, no, in summer. I suppose in August or in September it will be opened. So it depends what policies the library has, and some policies really contain the rules for this. Some policies contain just expanding the international relations and international collections, and they ask upon their wish what they need, or they study the minority. Queen's Library studied the minority and studied their interest and studied the segment what they needed, and then sent this request to us upon questionnaire to prepare their materials. That is how we work. Sometimes we work very chaotic and collect books at the beginning and send to them to open it. So it is so, and it is ordered later and brought in order and systematized, and everything is done lately. So that's how we work with it. Do you provide catalog records? We provide lists, not catalog records yet, but there are 2 or 3 immigrants working with them. For example, people who speak Georgian language, but are living in their region, also next to the library, or are working in foreign universities or so, and they help them, or just someone is just volunteer and happy to work on them, and they are helping these libraries and these little corners to catalog, to have the catalog of them and to record them. So that is how they work. So to find Georgian immigrant wanting to help to make this record is quite easy, because we are also patriots, and we will be happy to help Georgian immigrants there. So it is what I can share with you. And look at our art collection too, because you will see what kind of art was created in 20th century. You know a lot about our churches, about our icons, about our art, but our contemporary art is not well known. And we are happy to share it with our digital art library. So if you want to know our contemporary art, you may see it. So, what kind of questions you have?
I think that's pretty much it. We need to let you go. It's almost 9 in the evening. It's been a very long day for you.
3 hours.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. We all want to.
I hope I was not boring.
Oh no. We just want to be able to be in person and see the library again and use its wonderful collection. So hopefully one day we'll be able to visit your beautiful country.
Yes, of course. I'm sorry, and especially thanks to the Library of Congress and a librarian, Mrs. Hayden, who received us in 2019 And we are talking a lot about Georgian collections and in which direction our cooperation might work. And we are very happy about this visit, especially during the pandemic. It was really good motivation for us. I said, exactly before pandemic, we had this visit. And we are working in this direction too, to share our collection and to make our collaboration in the future much more visible. So we will be very happy for our connection. And feel free to ask any questions, any comments, any requests, and anything actually very free. And you will receive feedback. We are not Soviet any time, and our feedback are much more quick than it was before. So we are happy about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a very good.
Have a nice evening.
Yes, you too.
Oh, nice day in Canada and in the USA. Thank you.
But Bye. You have a good evening and a great weekend, and we'll be in touch. So thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.